IAS Academy.
Hello all, welcome to IAS Academy and welcome back to the program Editorial Daily, where we deal with editorial analysis which enriches your perspective and enhances your answer writing. So let's get started with our today's session. Yes, the first article for today is How Challenging Will Delhi Ambitious EV Transition Be? This is the article, mainly emphasizing on the EV vehicles that the Delhi government is being promoting. Okay, so Delhi has one of the highest levels of pollution in India or in the world, we can say, and the transport sector is the major contribution for this pollution. Okay, so to tackle this, the government of Delhi has set an ambitious goal of increasing the share of these electric vehicles and reducing dependency on the petrol and diesel vehicles. So, however, this transition is not without the challenges. There are so many challenges being facing to convert this normal vehicles to the electric vehicles. Okay, now the Delhi has launched. The Delhi has launched a policy called electric vehicle policy. Electric vehicle policy of 2020. Okay, so this policy aims to increase the electronic vehicle adoptions through purchase incentives and charging infrastructure and the tax exemptions. So the government has also proposed the electrifying buses, auto rickshaws, taxis and the delivery vehicles also. Okay, so why is this EV transition is more important to Delhi means, so it reduces the air pollution by lowering the vehicular emissions, because from petrol and diesel, the fossil fuel things, many carbon emissions are being happening, which is affecting the environment. So to reduce this air pollution by lowering the vehicular emissions also, this EV is being used, and it helps to combat the climate change by reducing the greenhouse gas emissions and to reduce the dependency on imported fossil fuels and improving the energy security in India, and also promoting the green jobs, that is battery manufacturing, charging infrastructure and the EV services. This is why the EV transition is important. Okay, and there are few key challenges which have been facing by the Delhi government. That is first thing which we can see, the inadequate charging infrastructure, especially in the residential areas. These charging points are not available, and high upfront cost of this electric vehicles despite the subsidies, and the battery related issues such as the limited range, charging time and recycling, and the pressure on the electricity supply as EV numbers increases, and even the adoption across the vehicle categories, with the private car lagging behind two wheelers and commercial fleets. So need for this consumer awareness and the confidence is in the EV technology are the few challenges which we can see in this transition of this EV vehicles. Okay, now when we expand this fast charging stations across the city also, we can it would be helpful for people to get the EV vehicles easier, because taking EV vehicle is not that easy. If obviously the cost is more than the vehicles which are running on the petrol and diesel, so EV vehicles cost more, so subsidies has to be there, and the charging points also has to be available, so that likewise these petrol bunks, the charging the infrastructure has to be developed, so that it would be very easy for the consumers to go and get the bikes charged. And obviously the electricity bills, if it is in the residential homes, if they are living and they wanted to charge these electric vehicles based on the number of vehicles which are in home, it would also give the electricity bill more. So rather these has to be taken in the concern from the government. Okay, now let us see this article in a complete way. Okay, yes, let's see the topic: analysis of Delhi ambitious EV transition. See, and how can we link this syllabus to our to this article to our syllabus is, for GS paper 3 we can link this article to the environmental pollution mitigation strategies, the sustainable development, government policies and interventions, and the urban infrastructure also. And coming to the context of the topic, Delhi has notified the Delhi Electric Vehicle Policy 2026 to accelerate the city's transition to clean mobility and reduce the vehicular emission. This is what the context of the article is. Now, when you look into the key policy dates, in January 1st, 2027, only EVs can be registered for three-wheelers and light commercial vehicles. Example, the mini trucks, it has been stated. Next, in January 1, 2028, only electronic vehicles can be registered for two-wheelers. For two-wheelers, only electronic vehicles can be registered in Delhi by January 1st, 2028. After that, I mean, before that, it can be done for petrol or diesel, but as of January 1, 2028, only EV vehicles will be there. Okay, for Jan 1st, 2027, only EVs can be registered for three-wheelers and the light commercial vehicles. Example, the mini trucks. Okay, now, when coming to the verdict, it would seem the three-wheeler targets appear highly achievable, but the road for two-wheeler is a massive steep hill to climb. Okay, yes. Coming to the executive summary of the policy and what is the policy mandate, if we see, when you see the directive, the government of the National Capital Territory of Delhi has notified its Delhi Electric Vehicle Policy 2026 on June 30. On June 30. Okay. What are the aggressive declines? By Jan 1st, 2027, as we discussed, the three-wheelers and the light commercial vehicles have only will be registered. And Jan 1st, 2028, on two-wheelers. Okay. So the verdict, like, while the target for the three-wheelers seems highly achievable, the path for the two-wheelers is facing a massive steep hill to climb. Okay, coming to the environmental justification, the way which we can see, obviously, when we shift to this EVs, the pollution crisis, the policy directly addresses the Delhi's worsening annual air pollution. Okay, because of lot of emissions, like might be the greenhouse gases, the hydrofluorocarbons releasing from the houses, and vehicular emissions, the greenhouse gases which is affecting the air pollution like anything, and increasing the air pollution in Delhi like anything. Okay, so this is one of the pollution crisis the article is talking about. Next is transport emissions. Obviously, according to the Commission for Air Quality Management has latest according to its latest study, it states that 23% of the particulate pollution is winter, during winter, and 19% of particulate pollution is summer. But however, 27% of the secondary particulate matter is in winter. So, the transport remains the single largest source of particulate pollution in winter and major contribution in summer. Okay. Coming to the fleet impact, how can it is? Two-wheelers account for nearly 67% of Delhi's total vehicular fleet. So, the rapid electrification is absolutely critical to reducing the vehicular emissions. Okay. Now, coming to the sector breakdown, a tale for the two speeds. If we see, two-wheelers, the major challenge. How come? First, we'll see the three-wheelers on truck. What is it? The current share of three-wheelers is, the three-wheelers make up to 4% of the total vehicles in Delhi, but a massive of 43.16% of them are already electric. Okay, and coming to the new registrations which have been done, the all three-wheelers, out of 12,809 new three-wheeler have been registered up to the first week of this year, July, which is 8,419 were already electric, that is 65.7%. So, strong organic market adoption is driving the transition. Okay, next. Coming to the two-wheelers, the major challenge goes like the low penetration, like of the roughly 1.5 crores of two-wheelers on Delhi roads, more of 1.7 percentage are only EV rather than others. See the number, 1.5 crore of two-wheelers, out of which only 1.7 percentage vehicles are only electrified. Rest all are running on the petrol and diesel. Okay, next, the sluggish growth. How? In financial year 2025 to 26, out of 5.68 lakh two-wheelers registered, only 41,263, that is 7.25 percentage, were only EVs. Okay, so Delhi's electric two-wheeler registration rate has actually it has been plateaued or dropped, which is significant slightly compared to the national average trend. Okay, so the 100 and I mean 1300 percentage requirement, what is it, what is this 1300 percentage requirement is to meet the January 2028 target. By 2028 target which the Delhi has set, the sales of the electrical two-wheeler vehicles must skyrocket by at least a 12-fold. How much? The 12-fold in the sense 1300 percentage jump. 1300 percentage jump by next year to replace the standard registrations. Okay. Next, compounded by rising demand. How? Overall two-wheeler demand is surging nearly 25 percentage between 2024 to 2025 and 2025 to 2026. Okay. Now, when we see the key implementation hurdles, the first is the end of life vehicle enforcement, like a strict enforcement of replacing this petrol and diesel vehicles of two wheelers, that is 15 years and 10 years limits with EV will trigger this. It has a massive consumer friction and significant logistical challenge. Okay. Now, infrastructure deficit in equality. Like Delhi currently has 771 public charging stations. 771 public charging stations. So infrastructure is severely uneven. So mostly the South Delhi has 218 points, the southwest part of Delhi has 191 points, the west side of the Delhi has 144 points, and east has 120. Northeast of the Northeast of Delhi has 14 points, and north of Delhi just has only 24 points. So most of the electronic vehicle charging points are concerned to the south of Delhi. So the action item should be the Delhi Transco Limited has been tasked with expanding this public charging grid to bridge the gap. Okay, so because from North Delhi to the South Delhi, if you wanted to travel, it will take almost hours of time to reach there, because based on the traffic in that areas and all, it leads away, it takes very much time. Okay, now coming to the infrastructure gap and the charging deficit, if we see, first is what is the current reality. In current reality, Delhi currently had how many? 771 public charging points, but regional distribution, which we have talked previously, in north it has been very low. In north, charging this public charging points are very low when compared to the south gains the more charging points. And what are the key challenges it's been facing is heavy concentration in the southern regions. Northern and northeast areas are critically undeserved, and the it creates the range anxiety and slows down the EV adoption. Obviously, when we do not have these charging sockets nearby to our places, we will obviously take a petrol and diesel vehicles, so that it would be very nearer for her to go and fill the petrol. But if these charging sockets are also, this public charging points, if they are also been installed in the northern and northeast places of Delhi, then everyone would be take up this EV vehicles. So what is this action item? It should be there. The Delhi Transco Limited has been tasked with expanding this public charging grids to bridge the gap. Okay. Now, coming to the economic and market challenges, if we see, the high initial cost. Obviously, the battery EV vehicles has high cost than the petrol and diesel vehicles. Okay, which remains the significant costlier than the petrol counterparts. And the upfront cost remains a major determinant for price sensitive consumers. And then next challenge would be the battery and range concerns. Obviously, limited range and charging time, and the concerns over the battery life and replacement cost, and lack of the standardization in battery technology also is one of the major concern. Next is financing and insurance batteries. Like these higher insurance premiums for EVs has to be taken, and limited financing options and high interest rates, and the resale value is uncertainly affects the buyer confidence. Okay, now coming to the ecosystem readiness, when we see in that perspective, insufficient service centers and the skilled workforce is there. So limited availability of spare parts, need for a robust end of life battery recycling systems are also not present in India. Okay, yes. Next is the consumer awareness gap. Obviously, there is no much awareness in the in the consumers who take up these electric vehicles. What are the advantages of EVs? What are the disadvantages of petrol and diesel vehicles? Have to be known still. In urban areas we have been knowing, but in rural areas and few more areas, people are still unaware of this. So lack of this awareness about the total cost of ownership, benefits and all, and the micro conception about this performance and reliability, and all these have to be come up. Okay, next, coming to the way forward, the policy and implementation priorities. In that way forward, first we can say is expand the charging infrastructure. Obviously, the rapid deployment of this charging points, especially in the north and northeast parts of Delhi, which promotes home charging solutions with subsidies. Okay, next, making the EVs affordable. Likewise, the petrol and diesel vehicles, the EVs also have to become affordable, so that the demand side incentives and the scrappage benefits, it reduces the GST, reduce the GST on EVs and the components, and support for the battery leasing models also. Okay, next is strengthen the support ecosystem. Obviously, to expand, we have to expand the service network, and trained manpower has to be there to ensure the availability of genuine spare parts, and promote the battery swapping and recycling also has to be there. Okay, next, enforcing with sensitivity, like how the gradual enforcement of end of life vehicle norms, and consumer outreach, and the grievance redressal mechanisms also have to be taken up. Next is data and monitoring mechanism, like real time tracking on the registration of the infrastructure growth has to be there, and the evidence based policy adjustments also have to take place. And next is the stakeholder collaboration. The government, industries, civil society, and communities must work together, so that the public private partnership are very key important for developing the EV transition in India. Okay, next. When coming to the key takeaway from this article, we can see the Delhi's EV transition is bold, time bound, and necessary for a cleaner, healthier future. So the three wheelers are on track, but the two wheelers challenge it formidable. Okay, success will depend on infrastructure affordability, enforcement and sensitivity, and the whole of society approach. Okay, so clean air, healthier citizens, sustainable mobility, stronger economy, achievable targets, better future. Okay, this is what the article is talking about. Okay, and we have seen the way forwards to come up for the EV transition in Delhi, or else however in India also. Okay, now moving on to the next topic. Yes, the next article for today is The Crisis at the Heart of Non-Proliferation. So, this article examines the growing challenges to the global nuclear non-proliferation regime, which is particularly in the backdrop of rising the just geopolitical tensions, conflicts, and weakening the international institutions. Okay, so what is this nuclear non-proliferation? Nuclear non-proliferation is nothing but it refers to the international efforts to prevent the spread of the nuclear weapons, to promote the peaceful uses of the nuclear energy, and achieve the global nuclear disarmament. Okay, so the cornerstone of this system is the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. This is the main cornerstone. Okay, so which is come up in 1968, which came into force in 1970. Okay, there are three pillars of this NPT, I mean non-proliferation treaty. First one is, there are three pillars for it. The first one is non-proliferation, which prevent new countries from acquiring the nuclear weapons. So as of now, how many countries are with nuclear weapons, equipped with nuclear weapons? They remain, but it prevents the new countries to acquiring the nuclear weapons. And peaceful use of nuclear energy. Second is peaceful use of nuclear energy, which promotes the civil nuclear technology under safeguards. And the disarmament. What is this disarmament? Like nuclear weapon states should work towards reducing and eliminating the nuclear arsenals. Okay, yes. So why is this non-proliferation regime is in crisis? If we see, due to the rising geopolitical conflicts. So conflicts such as the Russia and Ukraine war, which we have seen, has increased the nuclear threats to the country, which is growing the rivalry between the major powers in the weakening thrust. Okay, so next is the modernization of the nuclear weapons. These nuclear weapon states has continued to upgrading their nuclear arsenals instead of reducing them due to this geopolitical wars, and this contradicts the split of the nuclear disarmament. Okay, and weakening the international institutions like which we see the International Atomic Energy Agency has facing the increasing challenges in monitoring this nuclear activities also, and also the political disagreements reduces their effectiveness. Okay, and also the regional nuclear tensions are also increasing, like see when we see the North Korea which continues the nuclear weapons development, and Iran's nuclear program remains the controversial obviously, and the South Asian nuclear rivalry between this India and Pakistan remains a very big concern. Okay, and also the erosion of arms control agreements also is giving us several important arms could control these treaties have weakened their expired, which is reducing the strategic stability. And what is this India's position in NPT? If we see the non-proliferation treaty, what is the India's position? India is not a signatory of signatory to this NPT, but considering it discriminatory, India follows a policy of no first use, NFU, no first use. This is what the India follows. Okay, and credible minimum deterrence, like what India supports the universal, non-discriminatory and verifiable nuclear disarmament, and India has an excellent record in preventing this nuclear proliferation and work closely with the IAEA. Okay, yes, what is IAEA? If you all can revise, IAEA is nothing but International Atomic Energy Agency. Okay? Yes. Now, let us see this article in a very complete manner. If we see the author of the article is Shelley Valia, he taught cultural theory at the Punjab University of Chhattisgarh. Okay, this is the person who is opining about this non-proliferation. Let us see this article in a complete detailed way. Yes, the topic is the crisis at the heart of non-proliferation. And how can we link this article to our syllabuses for GS paper 2? We can link this article to the international relationships, bilateral and relationships, and bilateral and multilateral agreements, international institutions like IAEA and NPT, the India's nuclear policy, the global security challenges. For GS paper 3, also we can link this article to the nuclear technology, internal and external securities, disarmament and arms control. Okay, now when we look into the context of the topic is the recent negotiations over the Iran's nuclear program remains the deadlock ever sanctioned relief and frozen asserts and verification mechanisms. So the editorial argues that the crisis exposes the deeper contradiction of the global nuclear non-proliferation regime, where some states remain nuclear weapons while other are denied similar capabilities. Okay, yes. Coming to the core impasse that Iran nuclear standoff, why it has been done is first is the Doha deadlock. How it is, negotiations remain stalled, and the major disputes like frozen Iranian assets, verification mechanisms, and the sanction relief also has been stopped, and the result is diplomatic progress remains limited. Okay, now coming to the competing positions, global powers, which we see the demand of the dismantling of this enriched uranium stockpile and offer economic incentives in turn and seek the stronger monitoring. These are the global powers versus what Iran is doing. Iran refuses to surrender its sovereign enrichment rights, and the president of Iran, Masood, has argues the peaceful enrichment in a legitimate national right. Okay, he says that the peaceful enrichment is a legitimate national right. This is what the president of Iran, Masood, says. Okay, now when we see the central contradiction, basically when we see the nuclear weapon seats, it continues to retain their own annuals with the little pressure for complete disarmament, and Iran, it faces the just a second, yes, it faces the sanctions, it subjects to the strict interdictions and the pressure to all back enrichment. Okay, next, coming to the global nuclear landscape, if we see, the nuclear weapon states with the NPT is United States, Russia, China, France, and UK. And outside NPT are India, Pakistan, Israel, that is undeclared nuclear capability. Okay, next. Yes, these countries which falls under this NPT are the United States, Russia, China, France, and UK. And the countries outside the NPT are India, Pakistan, and Israel. Okay. Yes. Coming to the systemic inequality within the NPT, if we can see, the nuclear haves versus the have nots. Nuclear haves versus have nots. That is, the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of this Nuclear Weapon, that is NPT, created two categories, out of which the first is the nuclear weapon states, which is recognized under the NPT, and uh, what you call non-nuclear weapon states, which doesn't be, it's not no, not considered recognized by the NPT. These are called non-NPT states. So the criticism has involved that individualized I mean the geopolitical hierarchy, and did not establish equal disarmament obligations. This is the main criticism. Next, double stands in the enforcement. Like, see, India and Pakistan, if we see, they both are, I can make it more clear for you all. Yes. This India and Pakistan are outside the NPT, right? So the powers, they possess the nuclear weapons, but they are accepted as the strategic partners. And coming to Israel, which we see, the nuclear capability is widely acknowledged, and never sophisticated to international institutions, and rarely treated as a proliferation concern. Okay. Now, coming to Iran, Iran has pushed the uranium enrichment under the legal framework. It has completely pushed this uranium enrichment under the legal framework, and it accepted the intrusive inspections under XPDA, and the continues to face the sanctions and military pressure also. And coming to the key issue of the topic, if we see, just a second. Yes, the key issue of the topic, if we see, the nuclear halves continue to possess the arsenals while the demanding restraints from others. Okay, now the key takeaway is the central issue is not merely the nuclear enrichment, but whether the international non proliferation rules are applied uniformly or selectively. This is the major key takeaway. Okay, next, coming to the fallout of the JCP POA, the unraveling, which we see that the first one is the US non-compliance. US non-compliance. Like, see, the JCPOA was a landmark achievement of multilateral diplomacy under the Barack Obama administration. Okay, so the unilateral withdrawal by the Donald Trump administration in 2018 and the reimposition of sanctions has scattered the trust. So the further US agreements thus carry no guarantee of compliance. Okay. Yes. When we see the JCPOA timeline, in 2015, the JCPOA has signed between the Iran and the P5 plus 1 states like the US, UK, France, Russia, China, and Germany. And in 2018, the US has withdrawn under the President Donald Trump, and reimposition of sanctions has been taken place during his rule. Next, in 2018 itself, the Iran has reduced the commitments and escalating the tensions and diplomatic deadlocks. Okay, this is what the Iran and US has done. Okay, next is the proximate cause. How, if the current crisis deepens further, the historical destruction of this JCPOA by the US stands as its proximate cause. So this creates a dangerous precedent for any state observing this tragedy. Diplomacy today, this abandonment tomorrow. Okay, now what is the impact of all is this? Impact is erosion of trust in the multilateral agreements, obviously, and it undermines the credibility of the non-proliferation regime. It encourages the states to seek the self-reliance in the nuclear capability, and increases the risk of regional arms which race and conflict. Okay, now coming to the historical foundation and the moral paradox, if we see, the first is the precedent of destruction. precedent of destruction. Like the global nuclear order is anchored in August 1945. Historical background, if we see. Okay, just a second. Yes. So, the global nuclear order is encouraged in August 1945 for destruction of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Okay, so these remain the only instance of nuclear weapons under in used in warfare, and the legacy of the first use continues to shape the nuclear hierarchy today. Okay, now what is the moral authority deficit which we can see is a state that has the historically used nuclear weapons against the civil population occupies a compromised moral position. Okay, so its authority to regulate others is derived from the past use and the geopolitical dominance, not from the justice. So this moral asymmetry undermines the legitimacy of the entire non-proliferation architecture. So the moral authority in global governance cannot be built on the ruins of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki and then use it to deny others the options once has reserved for oneself. Okay, and remember these quotes which are very much important for your mains answer writing. Now, coming up to the conclusion, enduring paradox, if we see, the first is Einstein and the Russell's warning. The Einstein and the Bertrand Russell has warned in 1955 that nuclear weapons must be abolished by all states without the exception. So otherwise, this logic of determinants will inevitably produce the catastrophe. This is already told by Mr. Einstein and the Russell in 1955. And the statement which they have told is, remember you humanity and forget the rest. Remember your humanity and forget the rest, which is said by the Einstein and Russell. Okay, next, the enduring paradox, how the nuclear weapons has been retained and the disarmament demands on others. So the rule based order which tolerates the most destructive weapons in human history rather than eliminating them. Okay, next, the crossroads, like the world must choose between the confirmating systemic contradictions or facing the eventual catastrophe, like through comprehensive policy change or through continued inaction. Okay, the future of the global peace and justice depends on the choice we make today. Okay, yes, and there are few key terminologies which we can take up from this article. And if we see the impact of all this, it weakens the global nuclear norms, first of all, and then it erodes the faith in the international institutions if we do so, and increases the risk of proliferation and conflict, and threatens the long term global peace and stability. Okay. Yes, and there are few key terminologies from this article which we can take up is, first is NPT. What is NPT? It is a treaty on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons from 1968, which seeks to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and promote the peaceful use to achieve the nuclear disarmament. Okay, next, JCPOA. JCPOA is a Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action 2015, which is an agreement limiting the Iran's nuclear activity in return to sanction relief. Okay, next. Next is the enrichment. What is it? It is the process of increasing the concentration of uranium 235 to produce the fuel for nuclear reactors or weapons. Okay, next, deterrence. What is this? It is nothing but a strategy of discouraging and adversary from attacking by threatening which are reacceptable and retaliation. Okay, next, disarmament. It is nothing but a reduction or elimination of the nuclear weapons through verifiable, invertible and universal measures. Okay, these are the few takeaways, key terminologies which we can take away from this article. And coming to the key takeaway from this article, the crisis is not only about Iran, it is about a global nuclear order which is built on the inequality and the hypocrisy. So either we rebuild it on the foundation of justice and universality, and or we accept the logic of the deterrence will one day deliver the catastrophe the Einstein and Russell has warned of. Okay, this is the major key takeaway from this article which we can see. Okay. And yes, these are the two articles for today that we have discussed, the geopolitical wars and the disarmament of the weapons, and the what you call the electric vehicle transition to the electric vehicles in Delhi. Okay, I hope everyone liked this video. To get a complete PDF of it, do visit our website and do like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more editorial analysis, and do follow our Telegram ID and Instagram ID as well for your UPSC preparation. All the links are provided in the description below, so do check it out. And yes, I'll see you all soon tomorrow with another editorial analysis. Thank you.